itself hurtling towards an unimaginable abyss. The global economy, once carefully guided by the hands of policymakers and financial experts, had now morphed into a runaway train with There were no longer any controlling mechanisms or institutions to stabilize the markets, and chaos reigned supreme. It all started with a series of unprecedented events, a cascade of financial meltdowns, political upheavals, and environmental disasters that unfolded like a domino effect. Governments, once powerful entities that held the strings of their nation's destinies, were reduced to mere spectators, unable to comprehend or control the chaos that ensued. The people, once accustomed to the comforts of modern life, now found themselves on the precipice of an uncertain future. The global village was crumbling, and the once interconnected web of trade and communication had disintegrated into pockets of isolation. Panic and desperation gripped communities as they struggled to adapt to a new reality where the very foundations of their existence were under threat. In this atmosphere of uncertainty, various factions emerged, each vying for control in the vacuum left by the collapse of traditional power structures. Border disputes escalated into full-blown conflicts, resources became scarce, and the struggle for survival intensified. The world, once filled with the promise of progress and unity, now teetered on the brink of anarchy. Amidst the chaos, a group of brilliant minds from diverse backgrounds came together in a last-ditch effort to salvage what remained of humanity. They formed an unconventional alliance, pooling their knowledge and expertise to understand the root causes of the global meltdown. As they delved into the intricate web of interconnected crises, they discovered a disturbing truth. A black swan event, an unpredictable and catastrophic occurrence that had set off the irreversible chain reaction. The realization that there was no easy fix, no magic solution to reset the world's course, sent shockwaves through the group. The runaway train was speeding towards a chasm, and the brakes were nowhere to be found. The once stable societies were unraveling, and the fabric of civilization was tearing apart at the seams. As the Black Swan event unfolded with relentless force, the group faced a daunting choice: to succumb to the impending doom or to forge a new path forward. They knew that they couldn't turn back time or undo the damage. Instead, they focused on building bridges between the fractured remnants of humanity, fostering cooperation and understanding in the face of adversity. In the midst of the chaos, a spark of resilience ignited. People began to recognize the futility of conflict and the necessity of unity. Slowly but steadily, communities started to rebuild, not in the image of the past, but with a newfound wisdom born from the ashes of a once great civilization. The world had changed irreversibly, and life, as they once knew it, was gone. Yet, in the face of unprecedented challenges, humanity found the strength to adapt, evolve, and create a new narrative for the future. The runaway train may have derailed, but from the wreckage emerged a glimmer of hope, a testament to the indomitable spirit of the human race. The group of brilliant minds, now known as the Catalysts, became beacons of guidance in this shattered world. Their alliance, born out of necessity, evolved into a symbol of hope and a source of inspiration for those seeking a way forward. They embarked on a mission to share knowledge, foster collaboration, and ignite the embers of innovation in the hearts of those willing to listen. One of the Catalysts, Dr. Amelia Foster, a renowned environmental scientist, dedicated herself to understanding the ecological consequences of the Black Swan event. She collaborated with engineers, inventors, and local communities to develop sustainable technologies that could mitigate the damage inflicted on the planet. Together, they devised methods to harness renewable energy, purify contaminated water sources, and restore ravaged ecosystems. Meanwhile, Alexei Volkov, an economist with a keen understanding of the intricacies of global finance, worked tirelessly to create alternative economic models. He believed that the old system, which had led to the collapse, needed to be replaced with a more equitable and resilient framework. Localized, community-driven economies began to emerge, fostering self-sufficiency and reducing dependence on a fragile global market. The catalysts also included social leaders, artists, and communicators who recognized the power of storytelling in shaping the narrative of this new world. They collaborated to weave a tapestry of shared values, emphasizing the importance of compassion, cooperation, and sustainability. Through art, music, and communal gatherings, they nurtured a sense of unity that transcended the borders that once divided nations. As the catalyst's influence spread, communities around the world started adopting their principles. Grassroots movements, once driven by desperation, became agents of positive change. The remnants of the old world were repurposed, and the scars of the Black Swan event became reminders of humanity's capacity for resilience and transformation. Despite the ongoing challenges, a semblance of order emerged from the chaos. The world was no longer a runaway train spiraling towards destruction. It was a mosaic of diverse communities, each contributing to the collective effort of rebuilding. People learned to value simplicity over excess, cooperation over competition, and sustainability over exploitation. In the wake of the Black Swan event, a new era dawned. A chapter of human history that emphasized collaboration, adaptability, and a shared responsibility for the planet. The catalysts, once faced with an insurmountable challenge, had sparked a global renaissance, proving that even in the darkest moments, the human spirit could find a way to thrive. Life as it was once known might be gone, but from its ashes emerged a world sculpted by resilience, innovation, and the unwavering belief in the potential for a brighter tomorrow. The catalyst's vision extended beyond the immediate challenges of survival. They recognized the need for a collective memory that would anchor humanity in the lessons learned from the past. Together, they initiated a global project to archive the knowledge, stories, and experiences of diverse communities during the tumultuous times. This digital repository, known as the Chronicles of Resilience, became a testament to the strength of the human spirit and a guide for future generations. As the world gradually stabilized, the catalysts transitioned from crisis management to fostering long-term sustainability. They worked with communities to establish education programs that emphasized critical thinking, innovation, and ecological responsibility. The concept of citizenship evolved to include a shared commitment to stewardship of the planet and mutual support. Amidst the rebuilding efforts, a network of interconnected communities emerged, each contributing its unique strengths to the collective whole. Local governance structures prioritized inclusivity and transparency, ensuring that decisions were made with the well-being of all community members in mind. The once lost sense of interconnectedness found new life in the form of these collaborative technology, once a double-edged sword that had contributed to the collapse, was repurposed as a tool for sustainable development. Innovation hubs, fueled by the combined expertise of scientists, engineers, and advances in green technology, regenerative agriculture, and decentralized energy production became cornerstones of this renaissance. Over time, the Chronicles of Resilience evolved into a dynamic, living record, a platform for ongoing dialogue and exchange of ideas among communities worldwide. The stories contained within its digital pages served as a reminder of the fragility of the old world and the tenacity required to build a new one. As the years passed, the scars of the Black Swan event faded, replaced by thriving ecosystems and vibrant communities. The world that emerged from the brink of collapse was not a perfect utopia, but a resilient tapestry woven from the threads of shared hardships and collective triumphs. The catalysts, now elders guiding the next generation, observed with pride as humanity navigated the challenges of the new era. They had sparked a transformation that transcended the immediate crisis, laying the groundwork for a future where the mistakes of the past were not forgotten but used as stepping stones toward a more sustainable and harmonious existence. In the end, life as humanity once knew it was indeed gone, but from its ashes arose a world reborn. a testament to the indomitable spirit of those who dared to dream of a better tomorrow. In the years that followed the establishment of the New World, the spirit of collaboration continued to thrive. The catalysts, now revered as founders of a new era, remained guardians of the guiding principles that had emerged from the ashes of the old world. Their wisdom became a beacon for leaders, and their stories were passed down through generations as a reminder of the resilience embedded in the human DNA. The once scattered communities had grown into interconnected hubs of innovation, culture, and sustainable living. Trade routes that had once been conduits of conflict now facilitated the exchange of knowledge, resources, and cultural practices. A sense of global citizenship emerged, transcending geographical boundaries and fostering a shared responsibility for the well-being of the entire planet. The Chronicles of Resilience continued to evolve, transforming into an immersive educational platform that utilized emerging technologies. Virtual reality experiences allowed individuals to step into the shoes of those who had faced the challenges head-on, fostering empathy and understanding across diverse cultures. The lessons of the past were not just read but lived, creating a profound impact on the collective consciousness. Education became a cornerstone of the new society, emphasizing not just academic knowledge, but also practical skills and emotional intelligence. Schools, once focused solely on individual success, now prioritized community collaboration and environmental stewardship. The youth, armed with a holistic education, became ambassadors of positive change, leading initiatives for sustainability, social justice, and the concept of governance underwent a radical transformation. Decisions were made through participatory processes that involved input from all members of the community. Technology facilitated direct democracy, ensuring that the diverse voices within a community were heard and valued. Leaders emerged not through power struggles, but by embodying the values of empathy, collaboration. Renewable energy sources became the primary engine driving the world forward. Cities transformed into green oases with vertical gardens, sustainable architecture, and clean energy infrastructure. The scars on the environment were gradually healed as reforestation projects and ecological restoration efforts flourished, turning once barren landscapes into thriving ecosystems. Art and culture, once considered luxuries, became integral to the fabric of society. Creativity was celebrated as a driving force behind innovation and societal progress. Museums, theatres, and cultural exchange programs flourished, fostering a global appreciation for the richness of human expression and diversity. Through a combination of technological advancements and the lessons learned from the Chronicles of Resilience, humanity had not just survived but had evolved into a species that cherished its interconnectedness with each other and the planet. The once looming spectre of irreversible collapse had been replaced by a shared commitment to building a sustainable and harmonious future. As the catalysts approached the end of their journey, they marveled at the world they had helped shape. The train that had once careened towards destruction was now a symbol of transformation, a testament to the capacity of humanity to overcome even the most daunting challenges. In the quiet moments of reflection, the catalysts found solace in knowing that they had played a crucial role in turning the tide. The legacy they left behind was just a set of principles etched in history books. It was a living, breathing reality embraced by a global community that had learned to dance on the precipice of chaos and emerge stronger on the other side. And so, the world continued to turn, not on the axis of fear and uncertainty, but on the pivot of resilience, innovation, and a shared vision for a future that honored the delicate balance between humanity and the world it called home. The years stretched on, and the world continued to evolve in ways that would have seemed unimaginable during the dark days of the Black Swan event. The principles laid down by the catalysts guided the trajectory of human civilization, but challenges persisted. Yet, with each obstacle, humanity drew upon the lessons of the past, demonstrating an uncanny ability to adapt and thrive in the face of adversity. One of the ongoing challenges was the need for sustainable resource management. As the global population grew, careful stewardship of the planet became even more critical. The catalysts, recognizing the delicate balance between human needs and the environment, championed initiatives to further advance regenerative agriculture, circular economies, and responsible resource extraction. Dr. Amelia Foster, the environmental scientist among the catalysts, became a leading figure in the ongoing efforts to restore ecosystems and combat climate change. Through collaborations with communities and scientists worldwide, she spearheaded projects to rewild regions that had suffered ecological degradation. Afforestation efforts transformed barren lands into lush, biodiverse havens, capturing carbon and revitalizing ecosystems. The catalysts had understood that technology, when wielded responsibly, could be a powerful force for good. Innovations in artificial intelligence were leveraged to optimize resource allocation, predict environmental changes, and enhance disaster preparedness. Clean energy technologies continued to advance, making renewable sources more accessible and efficient, and contributing to a global shift away from fossil fuels. As communities became increasingly connected through technology, the catalysts faced the challenge of preserving the essence of local cultures. They emphasized the importance of diversity as a source of strength and creativity, encouraging the development of digital platforms that facilitated cross-cultural exchanges while respecting the uniqueness of each community's identity. The Chronicles of Resilience had evolved into a comprehensive digital repository, constantly updated with new stories, innovations, and insights from around the world. It had become a living testament to the ongoing journey of humanity, a dynamic archive that inspired future generations to learn from the past and contribute to the collective wisdom of the species. Education remained a cornerstone of societal progress. The catalysts had envisioned a system that nurtured critical thinking, creativity, and adaptability. Schools had transformed into vibrant centers of learning, with interdisciplinary curricula that prepared students not just for careers, but for life as engaged and responsible global citizens. Alexei Volkov's economic models had withstood the test of time, providing a framework for equitable and sustainable economic systems. Localized economies thrived, supported by decentralized networks of production and consumption. The emphasis on well-being over perpetual growth had created societies where happiness and fulfillment were prioritized over material accumulation. Social structures had undergone a profound shift. Gender equality, long championed by the catalysts, became a fundamental principle embedded in the fabric of society. Inclusive governance structures ensured that decision-making processes were representative of the diverse perspectives within communities. Empathy and cooperation were valued as essential qualities for leaders in all spheres of life. The once scattered communities had become interconnected in ways that transcended geographical borders. Virtual reality technologies allowed individuals to participate in global conferences, cultural events, and collaborative projects without leaving their homes. The world had become a tapestry of shared experiences, bound together by a common understanding of the interconnectedness of all life. Art and culture flourished as never before. Artists were revered as visionaries, interpreting the human experience in ways that resonated across cultures. Public spaces were adorned with murals, sculptures, and installations that celebrated the triumph of the human spirit over adversity. The creative expression of humanity became a universal language that transcended linguistic and cultural barriers. In the midst of this ongoing transformation, the catalysts, now elders, continued to play a pivotal role in guiding humanity. They had become revered figures, not as saviors, but as mentors who offered wisdom and perspective to a world that had learned to navigate its own course. The catalysts' retreats, where they shared insights and engaged in dialogue with emerging leaders, became highly anticipated events that fostered continuity in the guiding principles of the new world. Yet, challenges persisted. The ever-expanding frontiers of exploration and knowledge revealed new complexities that required innovative solutions. The catalysts understood that the journey of human evolution was ongoing, and the resilience of the species lay in its ability to adapt, learn, and remain humble in the face of the unknown. One of the persistent challenges was the ethical use of emerging technologies. As artificial intelligence and biotechnology continued to advance, questions arose about the ethical boundaries of scientific exploration. The catalysts convened global dialogues to establish ethical frameworks that guided the responsible development and deployment of technologies, ensuring that humanity's progress remained aligned with its values. The ongoing quest for understanding the universe led to advancements in space exploration. Human colonies were established on the Moon and Mars, expanding the reach of civilization beyond Earth. The catalysts who had once grappled with the challenges of averting a global catastrophe now faced the complexities of managing humanity's presence in the cosmos. As humanity ventured into the unknown, the catalysts emphasized the importance of preserving the integrity of celestial bodies. International agreements were forged to ensure sustainable practices in space exploration, preventing the unintended consequences that had befell Earth. The lessons learned from the Black Swan event served as a guiding beacon, reminding humanity to approach the cosmos with humility and respect. The bonds forged among communities on Earth extended into space. Collaborative efforts in scientific research, resource utilization, and cultural exchange transcended planetary boundaries. The once divided world had become a united civilization, navigating the vast expanse of the cosmos with a shared sense of purpose and interconnectedness. In the midst of these cosmic explorations, a new generation of leaders emerged. The catalysts, now in their twilight years, witnessed the torch being passed to a new cohort of visionaries. The principles that had guided humanity through the aftermath of the Black Swan event were not static dogmas, but living values that adapted to the evolving needs of the species. The Chronicles of Resilience, now a multi-dimensional platform that integrated virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and collective intelligence, continued to be a repository of knowledge, a catalyst for innovation, and a beacon of inspiration. It had become a virtual realm where individuals could explore the depths of human experience, learn from the wisdom of the past, and contribute to the ongoing narrative of resilience and evolution. As the catalysts passed into legend, their influence endured through the generations. Statues and monuments commemorated their contributions, not as idols, but as reminders of a pivotal moment in human history. The principles they had championed, resilience, cooperation, sustainability, and the pursuit of knowledge, remained at the core of a thriving civilization that had learned to navigate the complexities of the 21st century and beyond. And so, the story continued, a story not bound by the limitations of a single narrative, but an ever-evolving epic written by the collective efforts of countless individuals across time and space. The Black Swan event, once a harbinger of doom, had become a catalyst for transformation, propelling humanity into a future where the possibilities were as vast as the cosmos itself. As the world turned and the tapestry of human experience continued to be woven, one truth remained evident. Life, in all its complexity and beauty, was a journey, one that unfolded with each step taken, each challenge. The echoes of the past resonated in the present, guiding humanity towards a future where the indomitable spirit of resilience and the quest for a better world persisted, unyielding and eternal.
Hey, this is author Thomas Miller. You have reached my YouTube channel. This is a audio book recording of all my stories in a audio form. If you would like to read some of my other stories, go to authorthomasmiller.com, where you can read all my stories free of charge. Thank you for your time and have a wonderful day.
The Story About Reginald Crosby by Thomas Miller. Reginald Crosby sat at his desk, the gentle hum of the air conditioning blending with the soft ticking of the clock on his wall. He took a sip of his tea, savoring the warmth and comfort it brought him. It was moments like these, when the world seemed to slow down, that Reginald truly appreciated his job. As a psychologist, it was his duty to help those in need, and he had always been passionate about it ever since he was a young boy growing up in the small town of Rockwood. His mother, a kind and caring woman, had instilled in him the importance of kindness and understanding, and that's what he wanted to bring to the world, one person at a time. His thoughts were interrupted by a knock on his door. Reginald smiled, knowing it was probably one of his patients. He opened the door to reveal a disheveled man, his hair sticking out in every direction and his eyes wild with panic. Come in, Reginald said, ushering the man inside. He closed the door behind them and gestured for the man to take a seat on the comfortable couch in the corner of the room. The man, whose name was Tom, sat down heavily, his hands shaking as he clasped them together in his lap. He took deep breaths, trying to calm himself down, but it seemed like an impossible task. What brings you here today, Tom? Reginald asked, taking a seat in his leather armchair across from the couch. I don't know, Tom stuttered, his voice shaky and uncertain. I can't seem to shake this feeling of panic. It's like I'm drowning, but there's no... Reginald nodded, understanding. He had seen this before, in many of his patients. Anxiety, panic attacks, they were all too common in today's society, and it was his job to help people like Tom find a way to... He leaned forward, his kind eyes locking with Tom's. I want you to take a deep breath and close your eyes, he instructed. Focus on the feeling of the air filling your lungs and then slowly let it out. Tom did as he was told, and Reginald could see the tension slowly leaving his body. He repeated the exercise a few times until Tom's breathing had calmed and his muscles relaxed. Better? Reginald asked, a hint of a smile on his face. Tom opened his eyes and nodded, a grateful look in his eyes. Yes, thank you, he said, his voice steadier now. Reginald sat back in his chair, studying Tom closely. He was a man in his late 30s, with tired eyes and a thin frame. His clothes were slightly rumpled, but there was something about him that seemed familiar to Reginald. Can I ask you a question, Tom? He said, his voice gentle. Tom shrugged, a look of unease crossing his face. I guess so. Have we met before? You seem familiar to me. Tom's eyes widened in surprise, and then he shook his head. No, I don't think so. I've never been to a therapist before. Reginald nodded, accepting his answer. He didn't want to push too hard, not on the first session, but there was something about Tom that intrigued him. He seemed like a good man, but there was a hint of sadness in his eyes, a weight that seemed to be constantly on his shoulders. Tell me, Tom, what do you do for a living? Reginald asked, trying to get a better sense of who he was dealing with. I'm a mechanic, Tom replied, a sense of pride in his voice. I've been working at the same garage for 15 years now. That's quite an accomplishment, Reginald said, genuinely impressed. Do you enjoy it? Tom shrugged again, his eyes downcast. It's a job, you know, pays the bills. Reginald could sense that there was more to the story, but he didn't want to push too hard. He wanted Tom to feel comfortable, to be able to open up at his own pace. Well, I'm glad you're here, Tom, Reginald said, smiling warmly. I think we can work through this panic together. Tom nodded, his shoulders relaxing even more. For the rest of the session, they talked about Tom's struggles with anxiety and ways to cope with it. And when he left, there was a sense of hope in his eyes that hadn't been there before. As the weeks went by, Tom became a regular in Reginald's office. They worked together to develop coping mechanisms and explore the root causes of his anxiety. And with each session, Reginald could see the weight being lifted off Tom's shoulders. But there was still something about Tom that nagged at him, something that he couldn't quite put his finger on. He would often find himself lost in thought, wondering about Tom's past and what could have caused such deep-seated anxiety. One day, as they were wrapping up a session, Tom mentioned something that caught Reginald off guard. You know, Dr. Crosby, you remind me a lot of my old neighbor, he said, his voice tinged with sadness. Really? Reginald said, intrigued. What was he like? Tom smiled, a far-off look in his eyes. He was a kind man, always willing to lend a hand. Even when I was a kid, he would help me fix my bike or teach me how to change a tire. He was like a grandfather to me. Reginald felt a twinge of sadness in his heart. He had never known his own grandfather, who had passed away before he was born, but he had always imagined that his grandfather would have been just like the man Tom described. Where is he now? Reginald asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Tom's smile faded, replaced by a look of pain and guilt. He passed away a few years ago. I never got to say goodbye. Reginald could see the tears forming in Tom's eyes, and he knew that this was something he needed to talk about. So, they spent the rest of the session talking about Tom's relationship with his neighbor and how his death had affected him. As Tom left, Reginald couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. He knew that Tom was holding something back, something that was causing him immense pain, and he was determined to help him work through it, no matter how long it took. Weeks turned into months, and Tom continued to make progress. He was learning how to manage his anxiety and was slowly opening up about his past. Reginald was proud of him, proud of how far he had. But then, one day, everything changed. It was a typical Friday afternoon, and Reginald was just finishing up a session with another patient when he heard a commotion outside his office. He poked his head out the door and saw Tom surrounded by police officers and being led away in handcuffs. Reginald's heart dropped. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Tom, his patient, his friend, was being arrested. Confused and concerned, Reginald rushed to his office door and called out to one of the officers. "Excuse me, what's going on?" "That man, Tom, he's my patient. Why is he being arrested?" The officer turned to him with a serious expression. "I'm sorry, sir, but we can't discuss the details of an ongoing investigation. But we have reason to believe that Tom is involved in a series of murders." Reginald felt like he had been punched in the stomach. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Tom, a murderer? It couldn't be true. He had spent months with him, trying to help him overcome his anxiety, and he had never seen any signs of violence. But as the investigation continued, more and more evidence pointed to Tom's guilt, and Reginald couldn't help but feel a sense of betrayal. Had he been wrong about Tom this whole time? Had he missed something that should have been obvious to him? As the days passed, the weight of the truth settled on Reginald's shoulders. He had put so much time and love into helping Tom, and all he had received in return was sadness and pain. He was beginning to question whether he could trust his own judgment anymore. But then, something unexpected happened. A few weeks later, Reginald received a letter in the mail. It was from Tom, who was still awaiting trial in jail. In the letter, Tom expressed his gratitude for everything Reginald had done for him. He wrote about how much he had changed since he started seeing Reginald and how he had finally found a new meaning in life. And then, Tom revealed something that shocked Reginald to his core. He confessed to the murders and explained that he had been struggling with violent impulses for years. But through his sessions with Reginald, he had found a way to control them, to become a better person. Reginald couldn't believe what he was reading. It was a mixture of shock, sadness, and relief. He was saddened by the lives that Tom had taken, but relieved that his sessions had helped him become a better person. And he was proud of himself for never giving up on Tom, for always believing that there was good in him. From that day on, Reginald's outlook on life changed. He had always believed in the power of love and understanding, but now he had seen firsthand just how much it could transform a person, and he was grateful for the experience despite the pain it had caused him. He continued to see patients, helping them work through their own struggles and finding new meaning in loving his neighbors. And he never forgot about Tom, who had opened his heart and taught him a valuable lesson about the preciousness of life and the power of love.
When I was just 4 years old, my family and I moved to the small town of Shoreham, New York. It was a quaint little place, with a population of only a few thousand people, but to me it was a whole new world waiting to be explored. My parents had decided to move here to be closer to my grandparents, who lived just a few streets away. I was excited to live in the same town as my grandparents, but little did I know that my short time in Shoreham would be filled with memories that would stay with me forever. One of the first things I did when we moved to Shoreham was explore our new neighborhood. I remember riding my bike down the streets, marveling at the rows of colorful houses and the beautiful gardens that lined the sidewalks. The streets were quiet, with only the occasional car passing by. It was a stark contrast from the bustling city we had come from, and I loved the peacefulness of it all. But what truly made Shoreham special to me were the friends I made. Being an only child, I was always looking for someone to play with, and have adventures with. And I was lucky enough to find just that in my new neighborhood. I remember the first time I met my neighbor, Jay. He was a few years older than me, but he was the friendliest person I had ever met. We quickly became inseparable, and it wasn't long before we were spending every day together. Jay was a ball of energy, always coming up with new games and activities for us to do. We would ride our bikes around the neighborhood, have picnics in the park, and even build forts in his backyard. But my favorite thing to do with Jay was explore the woods behind our neighborhood. There was a small creek that ran through the woods, and we would spend hours catching tadpoles and looking for frogs. To me, those were some of the best days of my life. As the years went by, Jay and I grew even closer. We shared secrets, dreams, and fears with each other. I remember one summer when we were about 10 years old. We made a pact that we would always be best friends, no matter what. We even wrote it on a piece of paper and buried it under a big oak tree in the woods. It might seem silly to some, but to us, it meant everything. But as we got older, life started to change. My family moved away from Shoreham when I was 12, and although Jay and I promised us to stay in touch, we slowly drifted apart. We would exchange letters and phone calls at first, but as time went by, it became less and less frequent. It wasn't until I was in college that I lost contact with Jay completely. Years went by, and I often thought about Jay and our time together in Shoreham, but as life got busier, those memories started to fade, and I focused on making new ones. It wasn't until a few years ago, when I was combing through the internet, that I stumbled upon something that stopped me in my tracks. It was an article about a young man named Jay from Shoreham who had passed away at the young age of 22. My heart sank as I read the article, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I clicked on the picture, and as it loaded, my heart skipped a beat. It was Jay, the same bright smile, the same mischievous glint in his eye. Tears welled up in my eyes as I remembered all the memories we had shared together, but as I continued to read the article, something inside me shifted. I felt a numbness wash over me, and I couldn't quite explain it. I realized that I had never truly said goodbye to Jay. I had never properly grieved his loss. I thought about all the times I had seen him in my dreams, or the moments when I felt his presence, and it all made sense. Jay was still with me, in my heart and in my memories, and although he was no longer physically here, he would always hold a special place in my life. After reading the article, I reached out to Jay's family and attended his funeral. It was a bittersweet moment, as I saw many familiar faces from my childhood, but also sad to see that Jay was no longer with us. I shared stories with his family and friends, and it felt like we were back in Shoreham, playing in the woods and having the time of our lives. As I left Shoreham and returned to my own life, I couldn't help but reflect on how short life can be. Jay and I were only friends for a short time, but the impact he had on my life was immeasurable. I thought about all the adventures we had together, all the memories we shared, and I realized that he would always be a part of me. Years have passed since that day, and I still think about Jay often. I have kept the piece of paper with our pact buried under the oak tree, and every time I visit Shoreham, I make sure to pay a visit to our special spot in the woods. I have also made a conscious effort to stay in touch with my childhood friends, knowing that life is too short to lose touch with the people who have made a difference in our lives. In a way, Shoreham will always hold a special place in my heart because it was the place where I met Jay and made memories that would last a lifetime. And although it's been years since I lived there, I will always remember my time in Shoreham with fondness and nostalgia. It may have only been a short time, but the impact it had on my life is immeasurable, and I will forever be grateful for the memories I have of Jay, my dear friend from Shoreham. The True Feeling of Being Truly Alone, by Thomas Miller. Chapter 1, The Silent Nights. Could this be the real story of author Thomas Miller? A tale that tugs at the heartstrings and immerses you in the depths of solitude. A story of pain, isolation, and the yearning for connection. The Florida summer wraps itself around me like a suffocating blanket, a relentless and oppressive heat that seeps into every corner of my being. The nights are no different. They oscillate between a stifling stillness and a humid, clinging warmth that offers no respite. Each evening, as the sun dips below the horizon, a quiet terror settles in my chest. The loneliness becomes palpable, a silent scream echoing in the stillness. My name is Giles Bloomingfeld, and this is my story. It is a story of solitude, a journey through the dark corridors of isolation, and the search for a connection that seems perpetually out of reach. I cry out for someone to hear me, to acknowledge my existence, but my cries are swallowed by the oppressive night. The hot air outside lacks the fury and anger I feel within. My anger is a storm, a raging tempest, but it is a storm that is met with indifference. I fear dying alone in this room, in this house. The thought that no one would notice my absence, that I would simply fade away without a trace, is a fear that grips me with icy fingers. I am afraid of life, afraid of death, afraid of everything in between. Rejection is a knife that cuts deep, and I have felt it sting too many times to count. The first have not known the touch of another human being for 29 years. 29 years without love, without intimacy, without the warmth of another soul beside me. I have friends, or at least people I call friends. They are acquaintances, drifting in and out of my life like ghosts. They will forget about me, I know they will. They will move on, their lives continuing without a hitch, while I am left to wonder if anyone would look for me if I vanished. I bet not. The only true companion I have is my dog, Velvet. Velvet is my world, my anchor in this turbulent sea of loneliness. She is the greatest dog, a loyal friend who never forgets, never judges. She is always there, her presence a balm to my wounded soul. A dog's love is pure, untainted by the complexities and betrayals of human relationships. Velvet's unconditional love is a lifeline, a reminder that I am not completely alone. My neighbour, Brennan, often says, "A dog is a great thing in the world, he is right." Velvet is my comfort, my confidant, my only source of warmth in a world that has turned its back on me. Chapter 2, The Disappearing Act. The world keeps spinning, indifferent to my suffering. People come and go, their lives intersecting with mine briefly before they move on, leaving me in the shadows. Those who were once close, who promised to be there, have drifted away. They were never truly there to begin with, their presence an illusion, their promises empty. I see them sometimes, these ghosts of my past. They move through life with ease, their smiles bright, their laughter carefree. They have families, careers, futures. I watch them from a distance, a silent observer of a world that has no place for me. Their happiness feels like a mockery, a cruel reminder of everything I have lost, everything I will never have. Fake people they are. Their kindness was always a facade, their concern a mask. They were never truly my friends, never truly cared. When I needed them the most, they vanished into the night, leaving me to face my demons alone. Their betrayal is a wound that never heals, a constant ache that reminds me of my own inadequacy. Chapter 3, The Unchanging World. The world is full of people like them, people who pretend to care but never do. They move on, leaving a trail of broken promises and shattered hopes in their wake. They never change. They are the same, always drifting away, always disappearing when things get tough. They are like the wind, here one moment and gone the next. I have learned to expect nothing from them. I have learned that the only one I can truly rely on is Velvet. Her love is real, her loyalty unwavering. She is my constant, my only source of stability in a world that is constantly shifting and changing. I often wonder if anyone will remember me when I am gone. Will anyone mourn my passing, or will I simply fade away, forgotten and alone? The thought haunts me, a shadow that looms over every moment. I am afraid of being forgotten, afraid that my existence will leave no mark on this world. Chapter 4, A Lonely Soul. The nights are the hardest. The silence is deafening, the loneliness overwhelming. I lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts and fears. I long for someone to hold, someone to share my life with, but that dream seems more distant with each passing day. I am Giles Bloomingfeld, and this is my life. It is a life of solitude, of quiet desperation, of longing for a connection that may never come. I am alone, truly alone, and the weight of that loneliness is a burden I carry every day. But in the darkness, there is one light. Velvet, my faithful companion, my source of comfort and love. As long as she is by my side, I can endure. Her presence gives me strength, her love gives me hope. She is my anchor, my lifeline, my reason to keep going. And so I continue. I face each day with a mixture of fear and hope, clinging to the small moments of joy that Velvet brings. I am alone, but I am not completely lost. As long as I have Velvet, I have something to hold on to, something to cherish. And maybe, just maybe, that will be enough to carry me through. Chapter 5. The Echoes of Yesterday. The days blend together, an endless cycle of monotony and despair. I walk through the familiar rooms of my house, each corner a silent witness to my solitude. The walls hold memories of better times, echoes of laughter that have long since faded. They remind me of what I once had, of the connections I have lost. I often sit by the window, Velvet by my side, watching the world go by. People pass, their lives vibrant and full of purpose, while I remain an observer, disconnected and unseen. I wonder if they notice me, if they see the lonely man behind the glass. But I know they don't. To them, I am invisible, a ghost in my own home. The nights are the hardest. As darkness falls, my thoughts turn inward, and the silence becomes a mirror, reflecting my deepest fears and regrets. I think of the opportunities missed, the relationships that never were, and the love that remains an elusive dream. I think of the friends who have drifted away, their promises of friendship now empty words carried away by the wind. Velvet senses my pain. She nuzzles my hand, her eyes full of understanding and compassion. She is my constant companion, her presence a source of comfort in the darkest moments. Her love is unwavering, a reminder that I am not entirely alone. Chapter 6. A Glimpse of Hope. One evening, as the sun sets in a blaze of fiery orange and red, I decide to take a walk. Velvet and I step out into the warm, humid air, the familiar sense of summer enveloping us. We walk through the quiet streets, the sounds of distant laughter and music drifting on the breeze. We reach the park, a small oasis of green in the midst of the urban sprawl. Velvet bounds ahead, her tail wagging with excitement. I watch her, a small smile tugging at my lips. In her joy, I find a spark of happiness, a brief respite from the weight of my loneliness. As I sit on a bench, watching Velvet play, a woman approaches. She has a warm smile and kind eyes, and she sits down beside me. We strike up a conversation, our words flowing easily. She tells me her name is Eliza, and she comes to the park often with her own dog, a friendly Labrador named Max. Our conversation stretches into the evening, and for the first time in years,